Hello, I'm Ric Edelman, and this is The Truth About Money. On today's show,
is it not best to keep money in CDs, though they're paying almost no interest at all, but you know at least you have the principal at the end of the day? Would you recommend that?
And that's why it's important that you be prepared financially for disaster.
A natural disaster may not happen.
Is there a benefit to becoming an LLC as opposed to like a sole proprietorship?
You're suggesting that normal life expectancy should be around 125.
Well, just imagine by the time, say, you and I get to 125, you think nothing's going to happen? I mean, we'll have many other innovations. We're going to get to a point where we're adding more time through further technical innovations than is going by. That's a tipping point for life expectancy.
That's all coming up right here, right now, on The Truth About Money. Natural disasters, we all know, can happen anytime or anywhere. Floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, earthquakes, deep snow, you name it. And that's why it's important that you be prepared financially for disaster. We asked people on the street what they've done to prepare.
Like you kind of, it's like one of those things where you know you got to do it. It's like it's one of those honey to do list things.
No.
No, and why is that?
Honestly, haven't even thought about it.
I have not.
No. Sad to say, no, we haven't. Cross no fingers.
Just don't have the extra income to be able to, prepare for that, let alone save for my retirement.
No.
And why not?
Because I really think a natural disaster may not happen.
Those looks of confusion make it clear that most people don't know what to do to prepare for a disaster. Well, let me give you 3 simple steps that you can take to ensure that a natural disaster doesn't become a financial disaster. First, look at your homeowner's insurance policy. Make sure it's insured for its replacement cost, not its current value. The value in today's market is one thing, but if you had to rebuild that house, the builder could easily charge you more than that. Ask a local builder how much it would cost to rebuild your house from scratch, and make sure your policy provides you with at least that amount of coverage. Second, document all the personal property and valuables in your home. If you file a claim, the insurance company will want to see proof of the clothing, furniture, electronics, and other personal possessions that you claim to have lost. Inventory all your possessions with photographs, and keep the inventory in a safe place outside your home. Finally, make sure all your important documents are easy to grab if you need to evacuate. Keep your Social Security card, your birth certificate, and your passport where you can easily get a hold of them. You might need those documents in order to get government benefits, or to file insurance claims, or open new investment accounts. And if you leave documents behind, you might suffer identity theft if somebody else finds them first. A natural disaster doesn't have to cause you financial devastation. Make sure you're prepared. You know, there are millions of Americans aimlessly wandering the streets of America with personal finance questions bobbing in their heads. Here's one.
For someone with limited income, is it not best to keep money in CDs, though they're paying almost no interest at all, but you know at least you have the principal at the end of the day? Would you recommend that to people on very limited income who really don't have money to gamble?
Yes, it's quite a dilemma, and I actually have 2 different answers. First, no one should ever gamble with their money. I think it's a little hard to get money, and it's too easy to throw it away. So really, the answer is exactly as he suggested. You shouldn't be gambling with any of your money. Therefore, if you really have such a small amount of it that you have to absolutely make sure that nothing ever goes wrong, bank CDs are pretty much the only way to go. Sure, you can go with checking and savings accounts, money market accounts, even short-term treasury bills, but they're all pretty much birds of a feather. You're going to discover that the interest rate is very, very low. But that's okay. That's the price you pay for the safety and continued availability of the money. But what I often discover is that many people who have far more money than they realize act as though they don't have any money anyway. They keep all of their money in bank CDs, even though they have, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Those people are making a big mistake too, as big a mistake as the gamblers are. The reason is very simple. Because of inflation, you're discovering that the cost of money grows over time. Over a 20-year period, the cost of money pretty much doubles, which means whatever you're spending today, you're going to need to spend twice as much to maintain the same standard of living. That can't happen if you keep all of your money in bank CDs and the like, and that's why you really don't have any choice but to invest some of the money where it is exposed to some risk. How do we solve that problem? Simple. Diversification. By buying a little bit of risky investments, it helps us with the potential of making a big profit while insulating us in case something goes wrong. 12 eggs in 12 baskets is the approach we like to recommend for our clients, and that's the approach we would probably recommend for this gentleman. If he doesn't have any cash to gamble with, don't gamble, put it all in CDs. But if he's got more money than he probably is willing to admit, he's a good candidate for diversification. The questions that people ask me at our live seminars are probably the same questions you have on your mind. Take a look.
My question is refinancing, fees, 30-year, 15-year, and should you stick with your lender or go out there and look for another lender?
In the old days, it used to be a rule of thumb that you needed to lower your interest rate by at least 2 percentage points in order to make a refinance worthwhile. Those days are long gone. With interest rates as low as they are now, you can make a profit by refinancing, in some cases, even if the savings is extraordinarily small in interest rates. There's no way to know for sure if refinancing makes sense without talking to a loan officer. So go do that. And it's real simple. You simply show the loan officer what your current mortgage is and the current payment. And the loan officer will tell you what the new deal would be. And you just compare. If the new deal saves you $50 a month, it's worth it. But wait a minute, what if it costs you $1,000 to get the loan? Is it worth saving $50 a month if it costs $1,000? The answer depends on how long you're going to stay in the house. If you're going to stay in the house for a number of years, then sure, it's worthwhile, because once you get past the $1,000 cost at $50 a month in savings, everything else is pure gravy. So what we discover is that a great many people can save a lot of money by refinancing. They just haven't bothered to do it, and they're literally throwing money away. When you refinance, go to a 30-year mortgage. A 30-year loan is a far better opportunity than a 15-year loan. Now that surprises people sometimes because they know that a 30-year loan takes twice as long to pay off, and you're going to pay a lot more in interest over the life of that loan. But here's the point. The savings on a 30-year loan compared to a 15 is often $200 or $300 or $400 a month. You take that savings and you invest it. And if you invest it every month for the next 15 years, you'll have so much money saved up that you'll be able to pay off the remaining balance, and you'll have 10 or 20 grand left over in free money. And oh, by the way, if you ever want to get rid of it, you can at any point by just increasing your payment. So a 30-year loan lowers your monthly outlay, increases your ability to save, improves on your tax deduction, improves your liquidity, and makes it far better for you to increase your wealth, which is really the point. So go ahead and look at refinancing, and look at refinancing to a 30-year loan. And go talk to your lender. That's the best place to start, because your lender doesn't want to lose you as a customer. And if they know you're shopping, they have a strong motivation to give you a good deal to keep you.
All right, thank you.
I have a question about having a small family, being entrepreneurs, and some prioritization about investing back into the business, paying off personal debt, all of that. So I have an income. My husband started a new business, and we accrued some personal debt starting the business and we also already had some as well. And we have 2 small children. So I'm just looking at what you would say in terms of what are the priorities in terms of, all right, paying off that debt, putting money back in, saving. And then part of that too is there a benefit to becoming an LLC as opposed to like a sole proprietorship for tax purposes?
Two answers, two separate questions. Yes, your husband needs to incorporate as an LLC, a limited liability company. He needs to do this because if he doesn't, if he operates that business in his name personally, which he's doing as a sole proprietor, he is personally liable for all debts and obligations that might occur in that business, including the risk of a lawsuit due to an accident or an injury if somebody gets hurt in his store, for example. So an LLC shields him and you and the children from such lawsuits. That's why they call it a limited liability company. It limits the liability. So he very much needs to incorporate and needs to see a corporate attorney for getting that set up. It's not going to be terribly expensive to do this, a few hundred, maybe a couple of $1,000 to get that done. Second, what should you do with the available cash flow that you have in the family? You're earning an income. He's trying to earn one while growing his business. What do we need to do from a prioritization perspective with you and the family, with you earning an income and him trying to grow a business? If you're trying to grow that business, that is the only priority in the family. There is no way to succeed entrepreneurially part way. It is an all-in perspective. You cannot put your toe in the water. You can't try it out and practice it and hope it's going to work. You have to devote 100% of time and 100% of money to that effort. So every dollar he earns in revenue must be plowed back into that business. And every dollar you earn has to be done as well. This places the two of you under significant financial risk. And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. If you don't believe that that risk is worthwhile, if you're not sure that you can take and tolerate that risk, then stop now and he should go get a job. Are you financially literate? Here's your chance to find out, our quiz of the day.
Do people with low credit scores pay more for auto insurance? Yes or no? Stay tuned for the answer.
Every week I host a live radio show with Branderson, financial advisors Brandon Corso and Anderson Wozni. Let's listen in. Off to Long Island, Michael, you've been waiting patiently on the phone. How can we help you, sir?
Hey, Rick, how are you?
Great, thank you.
My question is one of renting versus buying in retirement. I'm 53, and I'm already looking down the road when I turn 60, 61. My kids will be done with college or close to ending. And at that point, I live on Long Island, pay a ton in taxes, but can still get a good price for the house and looking to relocate, say, to areas such as Florida. Does it make sense to, at that age, to rent or to buy a smaller property, but then you still have all the expenses of owning a house?
Well, it's a really good question, Mike. For years and years and years, the last 20 years or more, I have been arguing that home ownership is vastly overrated in this country, that we can make a very strong case that renting is as good a deal, even better in many cases, than owning a home. We all know that what happens when you rent. If something breaks, you just pick up the phone, call the landlord, it's their problem, you go off to work, they've got to arrange for the plumber. Right. But if you're a homeowner, you not only need an awful lot of cash to get into the property, you're going to be dealing with the maintenance, repairs, property taxes, upkeep, insurance, and so on. And homeowners spend money renters never do on decorating and such like that. So when you consider the incredible costs associated with homeownership, you can make a very strong case against it, which is why we have always said, unless you're going to live in that home for at least 7 to 10 years, don't even think about owning.
Hey, Mike, let me make sure I understand. You said you're 53, but you're asking about...
I'm planning down the road, and trying to figure if I could sell my house and where I live, I could get, say, $800,000 to $850,000 for the house. Does it make sense to rent and invest that money and let the money work for me in that when I'm in my 60s, or buy a property?
We need to do some pretty elaborate math for you, Mike, to figure out the answer to that question, because we've got to do two different scenarios. One, sell the house, take the cash, use it to help you rent, and invest the rest. What will that be worth in the future? Versus keeping your current house and running through the scenario. Or third, selling the house and buying another one and running through that math to figure out which of those three are going to be the correct answer.
And ignoring the financial aspect for a moment, which is hard to do, but ignore it for a minute, Mike. Are you happy, and is the house work for your family? Because you're going to be potentially living in Long Island 7 or 8 years. Are you happy in the house now?
Oh, yes, I am. I'm just planning for myself, just thinking long term.
So this is really a financial decision as opposed to a lifestyle decision. So
Correct.
It helps simplify things dramatically. And so the first thing you need to do is ask an advisor for help in doing this analysis. The second thing you need to do is to subtly modify the criteria that you began with. You said that you're thinking of selling the house, renting, moving to Florida because your kids are going to be pretty much out of college at around that time. So I would simply add the third element, don't give them your future address.
That's probably the best advice.
Do people with low credit scores pay more for auto insurance? Yes. Insurance companies believe that people who are responsible with their money are more likely to be responsible drivers.
Forbes magazine has called Ray Kurzweil the ultimate thinking machine, and Inc. magazine has ranked him number 8 on its list of America's top entrepreneurs. He invented the synthesizer that's used by many recording artists and has worked on concepts from text recognition software and scanning to the development of computer intelligence. I talked with him at his company headquarters in Boston. From my perspective as a financial advisor, we're often talking with our clients about the need for them to save for their future because they're going to be spending more time in retirement than any other generation before them. But most clients consider their life expectancy 85, 90. We push them to think 95, and we even know that's a little low. You're suggesting that normal life expectancy should be around 125.
Well, just imagine by the time, say, you and I get to 125, you think nothing's going to happen? I mean, we'll have many other innovations. We're going to get to a point where we're adding more time through further technical innovations than is going by. That's a tipping point for life expectancy. I think that's only about 15 years away once we master biotechnology, which is reprogramming the software of life. Health and medicine used to be hit or miss. It was not an information technology. It's just kind of a collection of things we found that work. Now we actually have the software of life. We're understanding how it works, and we're able to reprogram it. We can change this outdated software. We can turn genes off with RNA interference. We can add new genes. There are new technologies with stem cells where we can regrow all the organs of the body, turn off the stem cells that cause cancer, and so on. And these are not far away. So, life expectancy is looking backwards as if nothing is going to happen. But that's not the case. In fact, the pace of change is accelerating. And now that health and medicine is an information technology, it will progress exponentially, doubling in power every year or less. And whereas it was progressing linearly, even that's been helpful. Human life expectancy was 37 in 1800. It's pushing 80 today, but that's going to go into high gear within a couple of decades.
So I have two basic questions resulting from your high confidence level, if not certainty, that we're going to see triple-digit lifelines routinely, not only in this country but worldwide. The first question is, how do we prepare for that financially? What does this mean for the traditional notion of retirement? If you're going to live into your 120s, 130s, the notion of retiring at 60 seems outdated.
It's already outdated, but people think, gee, I don't want to be like a 95-year-old with the way they think of them today for 100 years, 300 years, but that's not what we're talking about. If you're 95 but look and act 45 or 35, you don't need to retire. What does it mean to retire? I'd say I retired when I was 5 because I decided I would be an inventor, and that's what I really had a passion to do. And I don't want to stop doing that because that's what I love doing.
So as long as you're productive and enjoying yourself.
People should do what they have a passion for, what they love to do, really, and not wait to 65 to do that.
So how does this translate to us individually? My show is, of course, devoted to the behaviors we need to engage in individually. And I'm always beating up my clients and my radio and TV audiences. You need to save more for your future. You're going to live a lot longer than you think. You can't count on the government or pensions to tide you over. You need to save. Are you suggesting that maybe we don't need to save as much because we're going to be productive far longer than historically?
Well, we're going to be productive, but saving is a good idea because it can give you freedom to explore things and maybe pursue a whole new idea that suddenly turns you on, that you discover at age 50 or 80, the way Grandma Moses did. We're going to remain productive much longer The tools of innovation, though, get less and less expensive. My father was a musician in New York, and if you want to hear his orchestral composition, you had to hire an orchestra, and a lot of money was involved. There were late-night calls with funders. Today, a kid in her dorm room can hear a whole orchestra that she composed on her computer with a MIDI keyboard. A couple of kids at Harvard created Facebook. Another couple of kids created Google as a late-night dorm challenge. You don't have to have very expensive equipment to make disruptive change in any field. And every field is being transformed by these technologies.
Well, let's talk about the transformation that we can therefore expect to see on Wall Street, in the financial sector. What does all of this mean for personal finance and for the national and global economy?
We still get $1 worth of human labor for $1, but what we actually accomplish is so much greater. We get $1 worth of computation for $1, but the dollar of computation today would have cost $1,000 8 or 9 years ago. None of that's factored in. That tends to actually dampen things like an average stock price. But what we can actually accomplish for $1 is increasing. And that ultimately will affect even these sort of basket things like food, and because there'll be new food production mechanisms transformed by, we'll have AI driven vertical agriculture where we produce food in buildings at very low cost with high nutritional quality and no ecological effect.
So there'll be farms in New York City.
Exactly, and they'll be treated as factories. They'll be automated. They'll recycle all the nutrients, so they'll have no effect on the environment. There'll be no animal suffering. We'll create in vitro cloned meat by cloning muscle tissue. This has been demonstrated. Very high quality meat at low cost with no animals involved. PETA actually likes this idea. Energy is going to be transformed. We actually see an exponential in solar energy. It is growing smoothly and exponentially, doubling every 2 years. It's only 8 doublings away from meeting 100% of the world's energy needs. That's 16 years. When I mentioned this to the Prime Minister of Israel, he said, "But Ray, do we have enough sunlight to do this with?" And I said, yes, we have 10,000 times more than we need. After we double 8 more times and are meeting 100% of the world's energy needs, which will take less than 20 years, we'll be using 1 part in 10,000 of the sunlight that falls on the Earth. And that's applying nanotechnology, which is a form of information technology, to the design of solar panels and energy storage devices. So this ultimately is going to transform more than the gadgets we carry around.
So with everybody listening to this information and watching this, the question that I would imagine is in a lot of people's minds is, what's the takeaway for me? What do I need to do to prepare myself for the future that will soon be here? 20 years is not a very long time. What do we need to be doing to take advantage of this new world that you are suggesting we're headed to?
Well, for one thing, stay healthy today. There's a lot of knowledge about how to slow down aging, and particularly if you're, say, my age, a baby boomer, I'm 63, so that you're actually in good shape when we get there, and so that you don't kind of miss the boat. That's one message. Another, at any age, find out where you have a passion, because every field is going to contribute to this and is going to be impacted by this. I just went to a music conference. It read like a computer conference. A very sophisticated technology we're already using is very impressive to create music or graphic arts or to run a library. It's transforming everybody's lives. So you don't have to be a computer scientist, but you should be aware of the technology and utilizing it to expand our creativity.
Right, thank you so much. Before we go, have you been invited to a free lunch financial seminar? Don't go. These events are run by salesmen who are very good pitchmen. At the event, or in a phone call following up soon after, they'll convince you to buy some investment or insurance product, often those that earn those guys big commissions. Don't attend free lunch seminars. That free lunch could prove to be the most expensive meal of your life. And that's the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. Thanks for watching.